There comes a moment in every life when silence becomes heavier than noise, when laughter feels distant, when mornings arrive but meaning does not. In that moment, suffering no longer feels like pain alone. It feels like a question without words, a weight without form. Why does life hurt even when everything seems fine? Why does success fail to silence emptiness? Why does the heart ache even when survival is no longer a struggle? Because suffering is not random. It is not punishment. It is not cruelty. It is a message waiting to be understood. And until that message is heard, life will continue to whisper through discomfort, loneliness, exhaustion, and loss. And until that message is heard, life will continue to whisper through discomfort, loneliness, exhaustion, and loss. Life begins in vulnerability. A fragile body enters a world that does not pause. No instructions arrive. No guarantees are given. The first breath carries both life and uncertainty. The nervous system awakens inside a strange environment of sound, light, touch, and separation. From the very beginning, survival depends on connection, on warmth, on presence, on safety, on care. In those early moments, the psyche learns its first lessons. Is this world safe, or is it dangerous? Will comfort arrive, or must pain be endured alone? Is love dependable, or does it disappear without warning? Suffering does not begin as trauma. It begins as awareness. The moment consciousness recognizes absence, vulnerability, and separation, suffering is born. A toddler cries not because pain exists, but because connection has vanished. A child aches not because hunger remains, but because affection is withheld. A teenager feels invisible not because isolation is real. A teenager feels invisible not because isolation is real, but because belonging is denied. An adult collapses under the weight of expectation, not because effort is difficult, but because meaning has become blurred. At every stage, suffering changes its shape. In childhood, it feels like fear and abandonment. In adolescence, it becomes shame, comparison, and longing. In adolescence, it becomes shame, comparison, and longing. In adulthood, it transforms into exhaustion, loneliness, anxiety, and emptiness. Yet beneath these surface struggles lies something deeper. A psychological hunger for coherence, purpose, and identity. The soul does not merely want survival. It longs to understand its place in existence. Suffering often appears to originate from the outside: financial pressure, broken relationships, illness, failure, rejection, disappointment. These forces certainly wound, but the deepest suffering rarely comes from circumstance alone. It emerges from internal fragmentation, when the outer life and inner truth no longer align. A man earning a high salary still lies awake at night, staring into darkness, feeling an unnameable hollowness in the chest. Achievement surrounds him, yet fulfillment escapes him. The applause fades and silence returns. A woman surrounded by friends moves through crowded rooms, smiling, laughing, performing connection, while feeling profoundly alone. Conversation flows, yet emotional contact feels absent. A student with endless opportunity wakes each morning burdened by dread, wondering why motivation has vanished before life has even begun. These struggles are not failures of success, they are failures of alignment. The problem is not circumstance, the problem is fragmentation. Modern life fractures the psyche. Identity becomes performance, emotion becomes inconvenience, vulnerability becomes weakness, authenticity becomes risk. Social expectations demand masks, productivity worship demands endurance, perfection culture demands dispersion. Strength becomes synonymous with emotional silence. The psyche adapts. True feelings retreat inward. Authentic impulses hide. Emotional needs become shameful. The soul is forced into hiding, buried beneath obligations, expectations, and survival strategies. And hidden souls suffer. The body carries this burden silently. Muscles tighten, breathing shallows, sleep fractures, attention scatters. Joy dulls. Over time, exhaustion replaces vitality. The mind attempts distraction, entertainment, ambition, consumption, comparison, anything to escape the ache. But avoidance cannot erase the hunger for meaning. The deeper self continues to call. Suffering becomes the signal that something essential has been lost. Suffering persists because unresolved inner conflict seeks expression. The psyche does not forget what the mind tries to bury. The nervous system does not erase what survival once demanded. The subconscious does not forgive neglect. It remembers, stores, and waits. Every suppressed emotion, every denied desire, every rejected part of identity becomes stored tension. Each unexpressed grief, each swallowed word, each abandoned dream embeds itself into the body and psyche. Over time, this tension seeks release. Anxiety emerges as restless energy trapped inside. Depression emerges as vitality turned inward. Burnout emerges as prolonged self-betrayal. Addiction emerges as a desperate attempt to soothe unresolved pain. Anger emerges as frozen boundaries finally thawing. Numbness emerges when emotion becomes too overwhelming to feel. These symptoms are not malfunctions. They are communications. A child who learned to stay silent in order to avoid punishment becomes an adult who struggles to speak truth. Words remain trapped in the throat, and self-expression feels dangerous. A boy forced to suppress tears learns that emotion equals weakness. As a man, intimacy feels foreign, vulnerability feels unsafe, and emotional distance becomes protection. A girl conditioned to please discovers that self-worth depends on approval. As a woman, boundaries collapse, resentment grows, and exhaustion replaces compassion. These adaptations once ensured survival. They protected fragile minds navigating unpredictable environments. But survival strategies, when carried into adulthood, become prisons. What once preserved life now restricts growth. The inner child still waits to be seen, not with judgment, but with understanding. The wounded adolescent still seeks recognition, not through validation, but through acceptance. The suppressed self still longs for expression, not through rebellion, but through integration. And suffering becomes the language of neglected parts. Pain speaks when words cannot. Anxiety shouts when needs are ignored. Depression whispers when meaning is faded. The psyche refuses to be silenced forever. Many attempt to outrun this suffering. Distraction becomes refuge. Work becomes escape. Entertainment becomes sedation. Social media becomes validation. Ambition becomes validation. Ambition becomes armor. But no amount of external stimulation can satisfy unmet internal needs. The more suffering is avoided, the louder it grows. Because unresolved conflict does not dissolve with time, it accumulates. Each disappointment adds weight. Each unspoken emotion adds pressure. Each denied truth adds fragmentation. Eventually, the psyche demands confrontation. Breakdowns occur. Panic attacks arrive. Burnout collapses. Productivity, relationships fracture. Motivation evaporates. Life forces stillness. And in that stillness, the forgotten self finally speaks. Suffering persists not because life is cruel, but because the soul demands coherence. It demands honesty. It demands integration. Healing begins only when inner contradictions are acknowledged, when denied emotions are allowed space, when disowned traits are welcomed home. This process is not comfortable. It requires courage. It demands vulnerability. It exposes wounds long buried. It exposes wounds long buried, but it restores wholeness. As fragmented parts reintegrate, tension softens. As suppressed emotions flow, vitality returns. As authentic identity emerges, meaning rebuilds. Suffering loses its grit not because life becomes easy, but because inner conflict resolves. The psyche no longer fights itself, and in that reconciliation, peace begins to form. Quietly, gradually, gently. Within every individual lives a hidden world, a shadow self shaped by rejection, fear, and adaptation. This shadow contains the parts that once felt unsafe to express, the emotions that were judged, the instincts that were discouraged, and the truths that threatened belonging. Anger, desire, ambition, neediness, jealousy, grief, creativity, wildness, tenderness. Each of these qualities in their raw form is natural. None are evil. None are evil. None are defective. But in early life, approval becomes survival, and whatever threatens acceptance is quickly buried. When anger disrupts harmony, it is silenced. When desire feels shameful, it is denied. When ambition challenges authority, it is restrained. When neediness feels inconvenient, it is suppressed. When creativity disrupts conformity, it is discouraged. Slowly, identity narrows, expression contracts, authenticity retreats. What society condemns, the psyche buries. What the family disapproves, the child abandons. What culture shames, identity suppresses. Yet the shadow does not disappear. It waits, it grows, it observes, and when ignored for too long, it demands recognition, often through distortion. Anger, denied again and again, erupts as rage. Desire, denied again and again, mutates into addiction. Creativity, denied again and again, mutates into depression. Grief, denied again and again, sinks into depression. Grief, denied again and again, hardens into numbness. Neediness, denied again and again, transforms into control. The more identity fragments, the more suffering multiplies. A corporate executive, admired and respected, begins suffering panic attacks without warning. Nothing external appears wrong. Life seems successful. Yet inside, relentless pressure builds, the shadow demanding rest, vulnerability, and emotional truth. A devoted parent, endlessly caring, develops chronic fatigue. The body collapses beneath years of emotional self-neglect. Care for others has replaced care for the self. The shadow demands recognition. A disciplined athlete, driven by excellence, experiences burnout. The body rebels against relentless demand. The shadow longs for gentleness. A spiritual seeker, chasing enlightenment, falls into despair. The shadow resists perfection and seeks humanity. Suppressed life energy does not vanish, it transforms. And in transformation, suffering intensifies. The psyche longs for wholeness, not perfection, not purity, not ideal identity, but integration. Wholeness arises when light and shadow meet, when strength and vulnerability coexist, when ambition and contentment balance, when anger and compassion reconcile. Only then does inner harmony begin. Suffering is not an enemy. It is a summons, a quiet, persistent callback to authenticity. Every emotional struggle carries instruction. Every psychological wound carries wisdom. Every breakdown contains the blueprint for transformation. When pain arises, it signals imbalance. When despair arrives, it signals disconnection. When anxiety appears, it signals unresolved tension. Each symptom speaks a symbolic language. Loneliness signals unmet relational needs. Burnout signals misalignment between effort and meaning. Depression signals suppressed vitality. Anger signals violated boundaries. Fear signals unexamined uncertainty. These symptoms do not exist to punish. They exist to guide. Ignoring them does not silence them. It amplifies them. Many attempt to silence suffering through productivity, distraction, medication, entertainment, and ambition. But unresolved inner conflict cannot be outrun. It waits patiently. Only listening transforms. Listening does not mean indulging pain. It means decoding its message. When suffering is understood, it loses its power to dominate. The psyche does not demand comfort. It demands coherence. and through this coherence, healing unfolds. Consider a man who dedicated his youth entirely to achievement. Academic success, career advancement, financial security. Every decision centered around excellence, every effort chased recognition. Praise became nourishment, approval became oxygen, praise became oxygen. From the outside, life appeared ideal. Stability, status, and success followed relentlessly. Yet internally, exhaustion grew. Mornings felt heavy. Motivation faded. Sleep became fragmented. Pleasure dulled. Even victory felt hollow. Medical examinations revealed nothing. Therapy produced temporary relief. Productivity systems improved output, but not meaning. The real wound lay deeper. In childhood, affection arrived conditionally. Love followed performance. Praise followed obedience. Approval followed perfection. So, identity fused with achievement. Worth became external. But achievement cannot nourish the soul. The suppressed child still waited for unconditional acceptance, for love that did not require success. Burnout emerged as the psyche's rebellion, a refusal to continue self-betrayal. Healing began only when vulnerability replaced performance, when rest replaced relentless striving, when emotional honesty replaced perfectionism. Slowly, energy returned, not through productivity, but through authenticity. Success became expression, not compensation. A woman spent decades caring for others, family, friends, community. Her needs always came last. Her voice often remained silent. Boundaries rarely existed. She appeared compassionate, generous, dependable. Inside lived exhaustion, resentment, and emptiness. Years of emotional neglect accumulated quietly. Eventually, illness forced stillness. For the first time, movement stopped, and in that stillness, grief surfaced. Grief for unlived life. Grief for abandoned dreams. Grief for silenced desire. Her suffering revealed a forgotten self, a vibrant identity, buried beneath obligation. Healing required reclaiming autonomy, learning to say no, allowing guilt to soften, recognizing worth beyond service. Boundaries emerged, voice returned, desire reawakened. Suffering became the doorway back to selfhood, not as punishment, but as liberation. A woman spent decades caring for others, family, friends, community. From early adulthood, responsibility became identity. Her schedule revolved around the needs of others. Her emotional energy flowed outward. Her own desires learned to remain quiet. Her needs always came last. Her boundaries rarely existed. She appeared compassionate, generous, strong. Others leaned on her reliability. Gratitude followed her kindness. Respect followed her sacrifice. Yet inside lived exhaustion, resentment, and emptiness. There was no language for this conflict. Guilt silenced dissatisfaction. Gratitude masked longing. Duty overshadowed desire. Slowly, vitality drained. The body eventually intervened. Illness forced rest. For the first time, movement slowed. Obligation paused. And in that stillness, emotion surfaced. Grief arrived. Grief for unlived life. Grief for denied dreams. Grief for suppressed desire. Tears came without clear explanation. Fatigue felt heavier than illness. Beneath physical weakness lived emotional hunger. Her suffering revealed a forgotten self, a vibrant identity buried beneath years of self-sacrifice. Healing did not arrive through medication alone. It arrived through permission, permission to rest, permission to say no, permission to feel anger, permission to desire. Slowly, guilt softened, boundaries formed, voice returned, choice replaced obligation, suffering became the doorway back to selfhood. not as punishment, but as reclamation. The human psyche does not thrive on comfort alone. It thrives on meaning. The human psyche does not thrive on comfort alone. It thrives on meaning. Safety satisfies the body. Meaning satisfies the soul. Without meaning, pleasure feels hollow. Without meaning, success feels empty. Without meaning, survival becomes mechanical. Pain without meaning becomes trauma. Struggle without meaning becomes trauma. Struggle without meaning becomes despair. Effort without meaning becomes burnout. But meaning transforms suffering into endurance. Purpose transforms hardship into growth. Throughout history, individuals have endured unimaginable suffering, imprisonment, exile, loss, deprivation, not because pain disappeared, but because meaning anchored them. Prisoners survived brutal conditions because hope preserved identity. Artists persisted through poverty because creation offered transcendence. Activists sacrificed comfort because justice provided direction. Meaning does not eliminate suffering, it redeems it. When suffering aligns with purpose, it becomes sacrifice rather than torment. When hardship connects to identity, it becomes initiation rather than punishment. Without meaning, the psyche collapses inward. Energy drains, motivation dissolves, hope fades. With meaning, even suffering becomes bearable. Life does not demand happiness. It demands coherence, a narrative that explains why pain exists. Self-improvement begins not with productivity hacks, but with self-understanding. True growth emerges through integration, not optimization. Instead of forcing discipline, resistance must be explored. Instead of chasing motivation, emotional blocks must be uncovered. Instead of suppressing weakness, vulnerability must be understood. Most attempts at self-improvement fail because they treat symptoms rather than causes. Productivity collapses because emotional conflict persists. Motivation fades because identity remains fractured. Real self-improvement requires emotional literacy, understanding inner states, shadow integration, embracing rejected traits, boundary development, protecting emotional energy, purpose alignment, clarifying direction, nervous system regulation, calming survival patterns, identity reconstruction, redefining self-concept. Each step deepens psychological coherence. Growth unfolds not through force, but through awareness. Shadow work involves meeting disowned parts with curiosity rather than judgment. Anger becomes protective instinct. Jealousy becomes desire for value. Fear becomes longing for safety. Sadness becomes longing for connection. Nothing within the psyche is meaningless. Every emotion carries information. Through acceptance, fragmentation dissolves. The inner world becomes unified. Energy returns to circulation. Suffering diminishes not because difficulty disappears, but because conflict resolves. Wholeness restores vitality. Freedom without responsibility creates chaos. Responsibility without freedom creates oppression. Balance is required. Taking responsibility for emotional states empowers healing. Blaming external forces maintains victimhood. This does not deny external hardship, it affirms inner agency. Responsibility transforms suffering into growth. Victimhood freezes it, yet compassion remains essential. Growth unfolds gradually. Healing does not obey timelines. Progress lies in conscious awareness, noticing patterns, questioning reactions, observing emotional cycles. Each insight softens suffering's grip. Healing unfolds through 4 stages: awareness, recognizing emotional patterns; acceptance, allowing experience without resistance; integration, uniting fragmented parts; transformation, embodying new identity. This process requires patience, honesty, and courage. Resistance prolongs pain. Acceptance softens it. Suffering gradually transforms into wisdom. Wounds become understanding. Pain becomes depth. Healing does not erase scars. It teaches reverence for them. Suffering simultaneously breaks and builds. It humbles arrogance. It deepens compassion. It sharpens awareness. It refines character. Those who have suffered deeply often carry profound emotional intelligence. They listen differently. They feel more deeply. They judge less harshly. Empathy is forged in pain. Wisdom grows from wounds. Suffering becomes the sculptor of the soul. At some point, a quiet realization emerges. Life is not meant to be easy. Life is meant to be meaningful. Growth requires friction. Transformation requires discomfort. Self-discovery requires uncertainty. The psyche matures through confrontation with darkness. Avoidance prolongs suffering. Engagement transforms it. In that awakening, life no longer feels like punishment. It becomes pilgrimage. And within that pilgrimage, suffering becomes teacher. Wholeness does not mean perfection. Perfection is a fantasy created by fear. Fear of rejection, fear of failure, fear of inadequacy. It demands flawlessness and punishes vulnerability. It fractures the psyche into rigid compartments, forcing the human spirit to perform instead of live. Wholeness is different. Wholeness means allowing imperfection to breathe. It means embracing contradiction rather than erasing it. Accepting complexity instead of forcing simplicity. Honoring tension instead of fleeing from it. The integrated individual does not seek to eliminate weakness. Weakness becomes a teacher. Vulnerability becomes strength. Uncertainty becomes openness. Strength and vulnerability coexist. Confidence and doubt walk side by side. Ambition and contentment balance one another. No single trait defines identity. No single emotion dictates worth. In wholeness, there is room for anger without cruelty, sadness without despair, ambition without obsession, tenderness without fragility. The soul becomes spacious. This spaciousness dissolves inner war. Instead of battling emotions, the psyche listens. Instead of suppressing impulses, awareness guides them. Instead of suppressing impulses, awareness guides them. Presence replaces longing. Life begins to feel inhabited rather than endured. Balance replaces rigidity. Rigid identities collapse under pressure. Balanced identities bend without breaking. In rigidity, mistakes become catastrophes. In wholeness, mistakes become instruction. In rigidity, vulnerability becomes shame. In wholeness, mistakes become instruction. In rigidity, vulnerability becomes connection. Suffering transforms into understanding. Pain becomes narrative. Loss becomes perspective. Failure becomes wisdom. The psyche no longer resists reality. It dialogues with it. Wholeness does not erase grief. It gives grief meaning. Wholeness does not silence fear. It gives fear direction. Wholeness does not prevent suffering. It transforms suffering into growth. In this state, life ceases to be an endless struggle for control and becomes an unfolding conversation between experience and awareness. Peace emerges, not as absence of difficulty, but as acceptance of complexity. This peace is not passive. It is grounded. It is resilient. It is alive. It allows joy without attachment and sorrow without collapse. In wholeness, identity becomes fluid, adaptable, and authentic. The inner child feels seen. The wounded adolescent feels understood. The adult self feels aligned. Fragmentation dissolves. Coherence returns. And within that coherence, the soul finally rests. Life does not pause its challenges. Even after healing, even after growth, even after awakening, difficulty remains. Loss still arrives. Uncertainty still emerges. Change still unsettles. Suffering does not disappear, but its meaning changes. Instead of chaos, it becomes direction. Instead of chaos, it becomes direction. Instead of tzef, it becomes invitation. Suffering becomes a guide toward authenticity, stripping away false identities, social masks, and conditioned expectations. A guide toward purpose, clarifying what truly matters beyond survival and approval. A guide toward wholeness, reuniting fragmented parts into coherence. Each challenge invites deeper understanding. Each disappointment invites recalibration. Each heartbreak invites emotional maturity. Life stretches the psyche so that consciousness may expand. Without suffering, awareness stagnates. Without struggle, meaning fades. Without uncertainty, growth halts. The soul matures through confrontation, and yet, within this relentless testing lies a quiet mercy. Each wound carries wisdom. Each scar holds insight. Each fall contains redirection. Nothing is wasted. Even pain contributes to evolution. The psyche, when allowed to reflect, extracts meaning from experience. It learns. It adapts. It deepens. Over time, suffering becomes less terrifying and more familiar, not because it loses intensity, but because understanding replaces fear. Life becomes a dialogue, not a battle. Challenges no longer demand avoidance. They invite engagement. Within this engagement, courage grows. Courage to feel. Courage to change. Courage to let go. Courage to change. Courage to let go. Existence becomes participation rather than endurance. And slowly, life reveals its hidden structure. A rhythm of contraction and expansion, loss and renewal, descent and ascent. This rhythm cannot be avoided. It can only be embraced. In embracing it, the psyche matures. Wisdom forms not from comfort, but from reflection. Depth arises not from ease, but from confrontation. Meaning emerges not from pleasure, but from coherence. Life continues to test, stretch, and challenge, not to punish, but to awaken. Life does not wound without reason. Every ache carries instruction. Every tear contains direction. Every day contains direction. Every breakdown conceals a breakthrough. What feels like collapse often marks transformation. What feels like loss often signals liberation. What feels like despair often precedes awakening. Suffering is not the enemy. Suffering is the voice of the unseen self, calling for recognition. It speaks through exhaustion, anxiety, heartbreak, confusion, and emptiness. It whispers through loneliness and longing. It pries through grief and disappointment. Its language is discomfort, but its message is truth. When this call is ignored, suffering grows louder. When it is heard, life begins to shift, not into ease, but into meaning, not into comfort, but into clarity, not into perfection, but into clarity, not into perfection, but into wholeness. Life becomes less about escaping pain and more about understanding it, less about avoiding struggle and more about learning from it, less about control and more about participation. In that shift, identity softens, perspective widens, compassion deepens, the heart learns patience, the mind learns humility, the soul learns resilience, and within that resilience, suffering loosens its grip, not because life becomes gentle, but because the inner world becomes strong. Strength does not mean invulnerability. Strength means flexibility. It means standing within uncertainty without collapsing. It means feeling pain without being consumed. It means carrying sorrow without losing hope. This is the quiet triumph of psychological growth. Life remains imperfect. Loss remains inevitable. Uncertainty remains constant, yet meaning transforms everything. Within meaning, even suffering becomes sacred, a teacher guiding consciousness toward maturity. And in that maturity, the soul finally recognizes itself, not as broken, not as flawed, but as whole.